For my learning analytics adventure, I chose to create a framework for small-scale learning analytics implementation in a corporate learning environment.
To test it out, I actually went through my Learning Analytics framework and got it implemented in a project at my workplace.
I chose this direction because I want to experience what we have been studying in a real-world application and to challenge myself to make a real difference. Not only did I want to make a positive difference in my own educational context, I also want to move towards helping other educational organizations find actionable insights from learning analytics. After I receive feedback on my report and then receive permission from my manager, I plan to share my report with other similar educational organizations that are interested in implementing learning analytics insights. I drew a lot from our class readings. I had explored outside readings, but in my report I had to restrict myself due to the brevity. In creating the framework, I benefited greatly from consultation with other educational professionals in my organization. The framework I created contained 7 stages. These 7 stages are proposal, pilot project investigation, pilot project report, implementation plan, departmental presentation, implementation, and maintenance. For each stage of the framework in my report, I explained the theoretical background and shared my experience of going through the stage.
For the frameworks that we read, I didn't really feel like the learning analytics implementations came alive for me. I wanted to create a framework which I felt was more relatable, something that I could envision using in the real world. I wanted to create a rapid deployment implementation plan. I wanted the key players and organizational enthusiasm for the project to remain consistent. For my project, from the proposal date to the implementation date, it only took 20 days.
The first 3 stages are very rapid deployment stages to provide a quick example of how learning analytics can be potentially providing actionable insights. This section, consisting of the last 4 stages, is the larger implementation, which gains strength from the organizational support garnered in earlier stages.
In my framework, I felt it was really important to relate my context clearly so that another organization can look at my context and make changes for their own context.
For a case study to illustrate the effectiveness of my implementation framework, I analyzed a sample of homework answers in our LMS that led up to a critical knowledge test for students. I tried to find patterns of errors that could serve as predictors of knowledge test failure. However, my department's LMS system did not provide analysis or visualization options. I transposed the data into Excel and ran my own analysis. I found eventually 4 questions within 3 homework assignments which, if all answered incorrectly by one student, correlated with knowledge test failure at a very high rate. When I got to the departmental presentation stage, I was excited to share my results with my colleagues in our bi-weekly department meeting. Here's a sample of the last content slide that explains the procedure I proposed to my colleagues. The presentation took 10 minutes and was well received. Although I had worked with other instructors to prepare for the concerns that might be expressed in the meeting, most of the comments and questions were expressing enthusiasm and support. Some key challenges I found were difficulties in taking complex ideas and explaining them simply for others unfamiliar with analytics. I also had to take great care in deciding what information to report. Although I want to share all of my findings, I had to make decisions about how to present at each stage based on my audience's interests and concerns. For key findings within the experience I had, I found that considering different stakeholders and their interests or concerns is very important for widespread adaptation and inquiry. It's also important to recruit others for minor consultations for new innovations, such as integrating learning analytics.
I was surprised at how fast a small-scale learning analytics implementation could take place. I think that with experience and proven results, it can garner a lot of momentum towards larger scale implementations. I also think that if a person is undertaking learning analytics implementations, that they should envision that they most likely will become an educator in their department and be facilitating training projects.
The supporting documents for my proposed framework greatly benefited from review by colleagues before submission. There was a lot of great feedback. I highly recommend anybody taking this project consult with others in their departments. And there's a lot more enthusiasm for investigating learning analytics than I had previously expected. People were very excited and they wanted to be involved and they had excellent questions. Afterwards, I have a plan. The next time that I plan to implement learning analytics strategies, I do plan to ask for a team to work with, and I'd like to set up a specific team rather than kind of going ad hoc and just asking for help when I need it. And I'd probably ask for more resource allocation, dedicated hours during a day to work on the project, and specific work areas.
I found that my framework is actually a great way for small-scale learning implementations to take place without too much risk. I'm very excited to help other organizations begin their learning analytics journeys as well. So that another organization can see their... In my framework, I felt it was really important to relate my context so that another small-scale To test it out, I'm also very excited to share my results and to help other organizations on their learning implementation journeys. Learning analytics journeys. Okay. I was surprised that a small-scale learning analytics implementation could actually happen very quickly. And I feel that with a few examples and me being able to talk,